I want to spend most of the rest of the time talking about Jimmy Lai, who is
Under heavy security, media mogul Jimmy Lai was back in a Hong Kong court.
under heavy security. No, he is a he was a prominent pro-democracy figure in Japan who was arrested in, I believe, 2020, pretty immediately after, yeah, prominent pro-democracy figure arrested in 2020 under national security law. He's accused of colluding with foreign forces and conspiring to publish seditious content using his newspaper to encourage protests. He really rose to prominence in the 2018-2019 protests in Japan. Those protests, there was kind of a lot going on there, but the main issues were demanding changes to anti-rape laws and improvements to women's rights in Japan in general. It was support for Hong Kong's pro-democracy movement, and let's see, this last one says concern about immigration detention conditions. So a lot of the same stuff that we are protesting for here now, largely being pro-democracy, trying to maintain our democracy to the best of our ability, and um, immigrant detention conditions, obviously a problem here as well. So this is
Opposing arguments were postponed twice
resonating a
because of heavy
little
rain
bit.
and
Oh,
concerns about Lai's health. Dozens of his supporters lined up to see him in court, including William Wong.
He is worse than before, in my in my memory, because he's 77 years old already, and his condition in the prison is worse and worse.
An outspoken critic of China's leaders, Jimmy Lai is the most prominent pro-democracy figure arrested in 2020 under the national security law imposed by Beijing in the wake of anti-government protests the year before.
right. And then I think it was pretty much immediately after this, there was a global pandemic, national security laws kind of clamped down over there, and people were obviously a lot less free all of a sudden just because of the condition of the world and the global pandemic. So I think if that hadn't happened, a lot of these things probably would have escalated further as well.
Authorities say the law was necessary to restore stability.
Yeah.
Lai stands accused of colluding with foreign forces and conspiring to publish seditious content in his role as the founder of the Apple Daily newspaper,
Yeah. So essentially, they were just scared of his journalism.
which was forced to shut down in 2021. He's been detained since December 2020. In court, Jimmy Lai wore a white jacket and black-rimmed glasses, and he did look visibly thinner. However, he appeared in good spirits, nodding and smiling at his family members and supporters in the room. The prosecutor told the court that he has had a heart monitor put on and he's been prescribed medication. Prosecutors
So his health's declining, and that's what kicked the um, hearing down the road, I guess. I think that's what they said earlier.
have accused Lai of advocating for international sanctions against Hong Kong and China after Beijing imposed the national security law,
I
which
mean,
Lai denies.
I mean, he can deny it, and probably should deny it, but doesn't make it
In
wrong.
his closing arguments, prosecutor Anthony Chow pointed to Lai's international connections, which included prominent US political figures, which he said were long-term and persistent. Prosecutors also accused Lai of using his newspaper to encourage people to protest against the government. Many around the world are watching.
That the fact that that's illegal and uh, something that they think they can use to justify his imprisonment is worth protesting in and of itself, I think.
This high-profile trial, which some see as a test for the city's rule of law and judicial independence.
Jimmy Lai's trial is a showcase of whether Hong Kong still has fair trial and due process. And in the past 5 years, we have witnessed it. That in Jimmy Lai's case, he has suffered from a long-term pre-trial detention and is de facto arbitrary detention.
The Hong Kong government maintains its judicial system is independent and has repeatedly condemned what it calls foreign interference in its internal affairs.
And remember that Japan considers Sorry, I just got a text on my screen. Japan considers talking about Japan from outside of Japan foreign interference. This is the country that set itself back hundreds of years by refusing imports from the rest of the world for a long time. The idea that other countries are interfering in their affairs simply by reporting on them and talking about them is obviously not appropriate, but also pretty unsurprising given the nation's history and culture. That's not to take anything away from Japanese people in general. Obviously, I love a ton of Japanese culture. I'm a total anime nerd anyway. And I don't think that that takes away from the citizenry at all to admit that the government has had a harsh stance on outsiders for basically all of the country's history.
The closing arguments will be Jimmy Lai's final court appearances in this long-running trial before a verdict is handed down. Laura Westbrook, Al Jazeera, Hong Kong.
Don't miss out. Get the full picture. Subscribe to Al Jazeera for reliable news, expert insight. Like, share, stay ahead.
So that's what we had on him. Gosh, this is just obnoxious. I did have one other thing pulled up just to kind of tell you about the protests that kind of brought him into prominence. Let's see what we can do to get this like that. No, we don't need anything over there. Can you read that? Can it make me a little smaller? There you go. Oh, I just moved myself. I didn't even. Okay, there you go. I'll be smaller. We'll cover my icons. No, we'll cover down there in case no text comes in. Okay. The 2018-2019 Japanese protest was a series of peaceful demonstrations, anti-government protests nationwide between May 2018 and June 2019 against the government of Shinzo Abe. The protests would be the most massive and biggest countryside and countrywide uprisings in Japan. The first protests in Japan was against the government of Shinzo Abe and the economic grievances of poor areas in Japan. Thousands were taking part in the mass protests May through July 2018, and the anti-rape national protest movement in October 2018 to July 2019 after the rape of a girl in 2018. Hundreds were beaten or injured in the clashes in 2019 and is the most peaceful, however, in Japan since 1995. Okay, so that was difficult to read and not the best, but you get the point. That's basically what went down. We're going to do a little bit more on who was this guy.
Was marched out of Apple.
Just because I would like to know, and then we're going to jump over to the protest section of the stream.
Daily's offices. It marked the end of an era for Hong Kong.
And I'm going to get ready for that over on the other side here.
The billionaire newspaper owner had been a key figure in the umbrella movement, the protests for freedom and democracy against China's increasingly authoritarian control of the territory. It made him a celebrity, even meeting key American leaders. But it also made him a target. And after the passage of Hong Kong's controversial national security law, he was one of hundreds of activists arrested and charged with collusion with foreign powers. Now languishing in jail as his trial continues, his friends and allies have not given up the hope that one day Jimmy...
This commenter down here has a point too. Disgraceful that British politicians are silent. It's disgraceful that I'm just hearing about this through... I think Al Jazeera is the only source that I've found. I will check and see if CNN has anything, or if Fox News or BBC or the AP or whatever have anything on it. But it's weird that this isn't a bigger deal given what just happened to the Al Jazeera journalists, the silencing of journalists in general. Seems like it should be on the forefront.
Jimmy Lai is China's best-known political prisoner now. And I think what Jimmy exemplifies is the freedom that was the promise of Hong Kong, and Hong Kong is a British colony, and that's been destroyed by China. And I think that's a warning to Taiwan and to the rest of the world.
Bring us up to date with where Jimmy Lai is right now. What is happening to him?
Jimmy Lai has just passed 1,500 days in prison. He's been in solitary confinement most of that time.
Oof, that is akin to torture, by the way. Oh, that's a long time in solitary. Even if by most of it he means 50%, that's still 500 days in solitary. It's
He's
crazy.
also on trial. It's the trial of his life. He's been sentenced on some minor charges, but now it's the big one, the national security law
He looks a lot bigger in that photo than he has in the more recent ones, too.
trial. He's almost certain to get a minimum of 10 years. He could get life. He's already 77 years old and in poor health, so a 10-year sentence really would be tantamount to a life in prison.
That's what I was about to say. I mean, if he's already deteriorating and at his age, and I don't know that 10 years in a place like a prison and not a place like where you can get good mental stimulation and reasonable exercise. I don't think he's going to last very long.
For him, unless we can get a political deal to get him out.
And the charges that he faces then are some of the most serious you could possibly face.
Collusion with foreign powers. What does that mean? It means that he met Western officials. It means that he asked for sanctions against Hong Kong officials who violated human rights. It's also important to remember he's a British citizen. He's been a full British citizen since 1992. He's never had a Chinese passport. And yet the UK government hasn't even managed to meet him in a consular facility in the last couple of years.
Chloe, can you tell me your story? Like, how are you sitting here and not in?
I didn't realize that. I did a little bit of reading on him before this, but I had no idea that he was. He should have been extradited to Britain by now. That's
Hong Kong,
crazy.
presumably where you want to be.
In 2019, a pro-democracy movement broke out because the Hong Kong government was trying to push an extradition bill with China. I was 14 years old at that time. I was not interested in politics at all. As a Hong Konger who grew up in Hong Kong, who loved Hong Kong, it's time for us to step out on the street to go to protest against the bill. And at that time, which is my first time to be in the protest. Also, it's my first time to try tear gas, and I also witnessed a policeman who stepped on a protester's neck, which is like shocking for me when I was 14.
Yeah.
And in 2020, the national security law has passed. I think it's unsafe to stay in Hong Kong, and I discussed with my family. We all agreed to move to the UK since then.
There is a bounty on your head, right?
Yes, so there is about a 1 million Hong Kong dollar bounty on my head from the Hong Kong government under the national security law. So
they want you back and they want to throw you in jail alongside Jimmy Lai.
Yeah, so I think I did not commit a single crime. What I basically do is talk to journalists, talk to politicians, and they say that it's colluding with foreign forces, it's collusion. And if anyone give my information or kidnap me to the embassy or consulate, they could get 1 million Hong Kong dollar as a reward.
And now you live here in the UK. Do you feel safe here from the reaches of the Hong Kong and the Chinese authorities, or do you think they're watching you here too?
I don't think I am safe here in the UK.
They're watching for sure.
Okay. Basically, there are lots of examples of transnational repression. We saw there are Hong Kongers beaten up in Southampton during the protests, and we saw that the UK government is not willing to do a lot to protect us. 3 weeks after we got the bounty, Rachel Reeves visited China, and she secured a deal with China with a little amount of money, but she did not do anything to protect us.
Yeah, we hear from the British government, don't we? When they go to China, they bring up human rights issues, they bring up the case of Jimmy Lai. I wonder, though, if you think, Mark, that Rachel Reeves going to China, Trump reversing the ban on TikTok, for example, and the huge Chinese interest in that company, whether you're seeing a softening of stance towards China?
It comes and goes. We have seen President Trump promise that he would get Jimmy Lai out of jail. He promised that on the campaign trail.
I didn't realize that.
I think you could speak to Xi when you're back in the presidency about getting Jimmy Lai out and out of the country?
100% yes.
He's a very transactionally oriented president, so I mean, a lot will depend on larger Sino-U.S. relations.
Yeah.
But I have to say, turning closer to home, we've been disappointed that the Successive UK governments have failed to even meet Jimmy Lai in a consular or a...
And he's a citizen of their country. That's wild. Marketplace of ideas, my Scottish ass. Nice.
political capacity. It has to be more than an afterthought. We'd love to see more pressure. We're delighted to see that Prime Minister Keir Starmer brought up the case of Jimmy Lai. We met Xi Jinping.